Hello students, welcome to Baji Rao IAS Academy, previous year question papers analysis. So we have been discussing previous year question papers. Now how we have to structure the answer. Now in mains examination, it is very important to structure answer as effectively as possible so that good structuring of your answer will ensure good marks for you as well. Okay, so this plays a very important role in your final selection. Now today we have been discussing economy questions. Okay, so in economy questions the essence is that you have to write data and example along with the points. So if you substantiate your points with the data, that enhances, okay, that enhances or enriches the content which you have given in the answer. Okay, so as part of this discussion, we have few questions for today's discussion, right? So the first question that we are going to discuss today here is about the net neutrality. So you very often come across the term net neutrality. So what exactly the term net neutrality is? And here we need to discuss the advantages and also disadvantages with the net neutrality. So this is 150 word answer. You have to answer this question in 150 words. Now if you structure this answer, first you have to write what is net neutrality. So this is not just the definition of net neutrality, but first you define what is net neutrality and also write what do you understand by net neutrality. This is the first part of the question. In the second part of the question, you have to write advantages and disadvantages as well. Now when you are writing advantages of net neutrality, write as many points as possible in the advantages section. Similarly, in disadvantages also you have to write as many points as possible, and while concluding the answer, it is always advisable to conclude the answer by giving suggestions. Suggestions on net neutrality and its regulation. So this is how you have to structure this answer. This is the overall structuring of the answer. However, along with the structuring, the marks will depend on how you have understood the question. So what is the content you have writing in this answer, and also you're giving any examples or data, introduction and conclusion. So all these factor depends, all these factors will determine your marks. Now, firstly, you have to define what is net neutrality. Now, net neutrality is a very interesting topic, and you have come across the term net neutrality very often. So, what does this mean? So, net neutrality is a principle so that all internet traffic should be treated equally. So, there should be no discrimination. Okay, so treating one particular topic or one particular content, one particular website, giving more favors or favoring it more compared to the other websites. So there's nothing like that. Internet traffic should be treated equally without discrimination. There should be no discrimination, and also preference should not be given to any particular website, service or application. Okay, so this essentially means equality in treating all the websites and the content which is in the internet. Secondly, net neutrality ensures that everyone has equal access to information. Okay, so there is no discrimination. Everyone can easily and equally access information which is available online. Okay, so the legal information which is available online can be equally accessed by everyone. Okay, so not just the information, but the services which are available on the internet can be accessed by all. Okay, so there will be no discrimination at all when it comes to access the information and services on the internet. Okay, so however, the access of information and services is regardless of the financial resources or the size or the power of a websites they use. For example, if you look at the internet, few websites are more powerful, so they have more financial resources, so they can easily influence the internet service providers to favor those websites, to favor those services. However, net neutrality ensures that all players are treated equally. So there should be a level playing field between all internet services. So this is the essential feature of net neutrality. Please remember, the question has been asked that what do you understand by net neutrality? So therefore, along with the defining net neutrality, you have to write all these content. Now after that, net neutrality is important because net neutrality helps in ensuring a level playing field between all the services providers, all the websites and all applications on the internet. Okay, so it also protects the free flow of information and ideas. So there will be no discrimination and no restrictions on the free flow of ideas on the internet. So this ensures that this information flows freely. Now every consumer can equally and freely access this information. So there will be no discrimination in accessing this information. So this is the essence of net neutrality. Okay, so if there is no net neutrality at all, so that led to, if internet service providers, misusing or potentially use their market power. So as I have already told you, there are few market players in the internet also. For example, there are a few players who have their separate website, their separate application. So because of their huge financial resources, they can easily manipulate the internet service providers. So therefore, the internet service providers can, favor, or they can favor or they discriminate between different websites based on the financial resources and the influence of these big corporate websites and service providers. So therefore, they can potentially use their market power to steer users towards certain websites. Now, these users, the internet users, can easily attracted to certain websites. Okay, so if there is no net neutrality at all, then users will favor few websites over the others, and then there will be no net neutrality, no level playing field at all. Okay, so this leads to absence of level playing field and also the limiting of access to others. Okay, so this is what we understood by the net neutrality, the term net neutrality. Now, after that, we need to talk about the regulation of net neutrality. How is net neutrality is actually regulated in India? Now, the question has also asked us to write that how net neutrality. So, net neutrality regulation has certain advantages and disadvantages also. So, before actually writing this, we need to briefly talk about regulation of net neutrality. So, if you look at the legislative framework until now, net neutrality has not been regulated in India. Okay, so there's no any legislation, there's no legislative framework for the regulation of net neutrality. So there is no law or policy framework. So however, in previous years, in last year, there have been some developments with respect to net neutrality. Okay, so what are those developments? So if you look at those developments, the Telecom Regulatory and Development Authority of India has been working on differential pricing for data services as well as a framework for regulation of the over-the-top services. So you all know what is over-the-top services. They include Amazon, Netflix. So they are called as over-the-top services. So now the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has been proposing regulation of the over-the-top services, and it has also come up with a differential pricing for data services. Okay, so certain services can have a high quality and certain services will have a low quality, so that there will be a differential pricing, and differential pricing will not just help the internet service providers but also the users in the internet. Okay, so this is these are some steps from the government to regulate the net neutrality and even the over the top services. After that, there's also a committee set up by Department of Telecommunication. So this particular committee has also tasked with the examination of the issue of net neutrality. Okay, so this committee will analyze all the dimensions of net neutrality and its regulation. So how we need to go ahead with the net neutrality, and this is what the committee is actually tasked with. So also, if you look at internationally, so what is the scenario of net neutrality at the international level? So internationally also there are countries like USA, Japan, Brazil, Chile and Norway. So these are the countries at the international level. They already have some sort of a legislative framework for regulation of net neutrality. Okay, so they already have a regulatory framework that is in place and that affects the net neutrality. So in a similar sense, India should emulate the steps taken by these countries which are already ensuring net neutrality through one or the other form of legislative framework. Okay, so therefore net neutrality has to be brought in. Now we have to understand the advantages and disadvantages with the net neutrality. So I have briefly given over here the advantages and disadvantages with the net neutrality. So please remember that this is 150 word answer. So in 150 word answer, you have to write answer in such a manner that you have to express more in less number of words. So that is the essence of scoring good marks in your mains examination. So firstly, the advantages part. So it ensures freedom to express the views freely. Now, freedom of expression is one of the core fundamental rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. So, therefore, net neutrality will ensure that freedom of expression or the freedom of expressing one's views should be guaranteed by the net neutrality. So, apart from that, it will also promote competition because there is no discrimination based on the services provided by the different players. So when there's no discrimination, it promotes competition among these players. And competition is the essence of providing quality services to the consumers. It should not be monopolized. Even the internet space should not be monopolized. So in order to receive or get the quality services, competition is very, very crucial. Now after that, we have to discuss about equal advertising opportunity. All the websites, all the applications and services will have the equal advertising opportunity. So even internet service providers cannot favor one website or one service over the other. So they all have equal rights for advertising opportunity. Now after that, the other point is that the internet users have the option to choose. Okay, so this is a one way of empowering users who are using internet. So they have the option to choose which content they wanted to consume and which content they don't want to consume. Okay, so they have the discretion and they also have the power to choose the content which they like. Now after that, the internet service providers cannot increase price arbitrarily. Okay, so you in order to access internet, you have to pay a certain sum of money. So internet service providers are intermediaries, so they provide services to consumers. So they are like an interface between the websites, applications and services and the users. So they cannot increase the prices arbitrarily. Now after that, monitoring of any illegal or criminal activities will be easier. So once the net neutrality has brought in, or once net neutrality is properly regulated, monitoring of any illegal or criminal activities becomes easier. Now, in the era of increasing black money and cyber crimes, terror funding, narco or terrorism, it is very important to monitor all those illegal activities, and net neutrality ensures the proper monitoring and regulation. So after that, we should also briefly discuss about the disadvantages involved with the net neutrality. Okay, so with the net neutrality, less network innovation because we are treating all the players equally. Now there are certain players who have while designing their website they had more innovation, so they are providing better services to the consumers. But on the other hand, there are few websites, they have they have less innovation. So even though there's a less innovation, but these two platforms are treated equally when it comes to net neutrality. So therefore, it further disincentivizes competition between different players, and after that, the access to objectionable content will also be possible through the net neutrality. So there's a certain objectionable content, for example, content related to child sexual abuse, so content related to derogatory practices on women. Okay, so net neutrality, disadvantage is that it will ensure access to the objectionable content as well. So after that, there will be injustice to telecom players. So there are different telecom players. Why it is injustice? Because they cannot increase the price arbitrarily. And secondly, the websites which wanted that the users to use their websites, they pay to these telecom players. So they are also the internet service providers. So it will lead to the injustice to the telecom players. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. So this is how you can write more number of content or more content in a less number of words. Now after that, while writing conclusion, so you have to write a progressive, positive and optimistic conclusion so that it gives good impression over your answer. So the internet has grown at an exceptional pace. So there's no doubt about that. The internet has grown at an exceptional pace since its inception in the early 1990s. So since 1990s, the internet has grown at a much rapid pace, much extraordinary pace. Okay, so this largely due to the freedoms and protections that net neutrality has offered so far. So because of the freedom and protection that is being offered to the internet by net neutrality, the internet has grown to such a quick and rapid pace. And in fact, there are groundbreaking ideas like Google, YouTube, and eBay. So they have reached to where they are because of net neutrality. Now this position of Google, YouTube, and eBay is because of the net neutrality. So therefore, there are thousands of new online stores, startups, and simple e-commerce sites that hope to make big every day. So not just we should talk about Google, YouTube, or any other platform which is very famous, but there are also thousands of new online stores, e-commerce companies, startups. So they also wanted to make big every day. So therefore, it is the essence to provide a level playing field between all those companies, startups, websites, and services. So, therefore, finally, net neutrality promotes the creative expression of individual freedoms. So, this is the essence of the net neutrality regulation. So, this is how you have to conclude this answer. So, the next question that we have to discuss is about the fall of rupee or depreciation of rupee. So this is a concept, the economic concept that is being involved in the depreciation of rupee. So why rupee has been depreciating over a period of time, particularly in recent times. So what exactly the depreciation of rupee means? Now when you're writing this answer, in the introduction itself, it is always advisable to talk about the depreciation of rupee in recent times. So there is nothing called defining rupee depreciation. Okay. So however, you can briefly write what is rupee depreciation. So after writing that, you can talk about a recent rupee depreciation when compared to US dollar. Now after that, you should write about the different causes that led to the fall of rupee or depreciation of rupee. Now after discussing causes, you should also discuss consequences of rupee depreciation and then solutions also. So please remember, whenever you are writing an answer, so it is always advisable, if you are writing or if you are discussing about a particular problem, particular challenge, you should also write solutions either in way forward or in conclusion, so that it gives a holistic picture of your answer. Okay, now if we discuss this question, so Indian rupee has decreased around 10% in recent times against the US dollar. Okay, so the rupee has continuously depreciated. So the rupee depreciation is around 10% against US dollar in recent times. Okay, so in fact, if we talk about rupee particularly, this is the worst performing Asian currency in the year 2022. So in the entire continent in Asia, rupee is one of the worst performing currency. Okay, so what were the reasons for the decline of rupee? Okay, the main reasons for the decline of rupee include appreciation in the US currency on safe haven. For example, there are fears of recession. So there are fears of increasing interest rates, Fed interest rates, and increasing bond yields, and also inflation. So why inflation? Particularly because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So what Russia-Ukraine war has made? So it has squeezed the oil markets. It has squeezed the oil markets and sources of oil for high oil demand countries like India. So therefore, the oil prices have further skyrocketing these oil prices, and also OPEC countries have been limited their production of crude oil. So all these factors have led to inflation. So higher inflation in these countries coupled with the pandemic losses in the economy. So all these factors have further pushed Indian rupee to slide down, or depreciation of Indian rupee. So this is what the introduction should be. So in this introduction itself, you have broadly wrote what are the reasons for the decline of or depreciation of Indian rupee. However, the first part of the question has been asking that, so what are the factors, what are the major drivers for the depreciation of Indian rupee? So the first and foremost factor that has led to the depreciation of Indian rupee is Russia-Ukraine conflict. So we all know that how Russia-Ukraine conflict has led to the energy crisis, food crisis, and also the fertilizer crisis. So because of low availability of fertilizers, the food produce has declined in several developing and even developed countries, because Russia, Ukraine are major sources of fertilizer. Secondly, because of lack of availability of enough food grains, food inflation has further increased. Now, apart from increasing food inflation, we should also discuss about the oil prices, increasing oil prices. So all these factors coupled together has increased or led to the depreciation of Indian rupee. So after that, the soaring crude oil prices. So OPEC production cuts coupled with the Russia-Ukraine war and the pandemic has led to the soaring crude oil prices. So countries like India, which have been importing around 85% of crude oil, so they have heavily dependent on crude oil imports. Okay, so the soaring crude oil prices will lead to the depreciation of rupee, because we need more dollars to import these crude oil sources. Okay, so in order to require more dollars, that increase the demand of dollar and reduces the demand for rupee. So this is another way of depreciation of rupee. Now after that, the foreign portfolio investors were selling off their assets because there were recently fears of a recession, increasing inflation in the Indian economy. So that led to the flight of the foreign portfolio investments out of Indian stock markets. Okay, now they have been investing in safe havens, particularly because of the global monetary policy tightening. So global monetary policy tightening means that there's a less availability of money in the at the global scale, and rising the fears of recession, inflation at the global level because of pandemic, Russia-Ukraine war, and energy crisis at the global level. So all these factors coupled together have impacted Indian rupee. That led to the depreciation of Indian rupee over a period of time. Now we have discussed the causes of the depreciation of rupee. Now what are the impacts of the depreciation of Indian rupee? Now if you look at the impacts of the depreciation, the imports will become more and more expensive. Now India is primarily an import based economy. So we have been importing several pharma based equipment, even solar photovoltaic modules. We have been importing automobiles, electronic goods, and even the oil and natural gas. So India can be categorized as one of the import-based economies. So therefore, these imports will become more and more expensive. So I mean, we need to finance our imports. When we are importing more, we require more and more dollars to finance those imports. So in this context, there's a possibility that the dollar will further strengthen because of increasing demand for the dollar. The dollar will further strengthen, and that led to the decline or depreciation of rupee. Because, for example, imagine importer A. So A is an importer. He is importing from he is importing solar photovoltaic cells from US, right? So now he is an importer and he has to pay more for the same number of dollars. So he has to pay the dollars. He has to pay the dollars to the US, because he is importing something from the US. So if rupee slides down, or rupee declines compared to dollars, he require more rupees. He require more rupees for the dollar. So therefore, it increases the demand for dollar. So further increases the demand for dollar, and that led to the depreciation or decline of rupee. So this is how actually this works, right? So when we talk about the international trade, it is mostly done in US dollars. So therefore, importers have to pay the higher prices, particularly because of the declining or depreciation of rupee. Now, also imagine recently India, along with other like-minded countries, particularly the BRICS countries, have been finding out an alternative for US dollar, particularly for the settlement of international trade. So that would be called as BRICS currency. So this is the part of de-dollarization, de-dollarization of international trade. Okay, so therefore we reduce our dependence on US dollar. So that will ultimately benefit countries like India. After that, so because of depreciation of rupee, there will be inflation, higher inflation in the economy as well. So what happens with the depreciation of rupee is that it will increase the cost of imports. So we are importing crude oil, and depreciation of rupee will lead to more costs. Okay, so it requires more rupees for the import of same number of goods. So that increases the cost of imports, and this will put extra pressure on people's pockets. Okay, so for example, imagine a chain where import of crude oil has increased, and that led to increase in petrol and diesel. So increase in petrol and diesel. So increase in petrol and diesel will also increase the prices of various products, because that increases the production costs, right? So it also has a risk of inflation, because India is primarily an import oriented economy or import dependent economy. Now after that, we should also discuss about the oil and gas imports. So as I've already told you, India imports around 85% of total oil and gas. Okay, so in this context, oil and gas import become too expensive because of the depreciation or sliding down of the rupee. So it most adversely impacted sector, because India imports around 85% of oil and half of gas it consumes. So therefore, it will further increase India's current account deficit. So after that, we need to talk about the renewable energy. Now, the government has been doing a lot for promoting renewable energy. So, however, the solar cells, we have been importing the solar cells. We still not achieved self-sufficiency or indigenization of solar photovoltaic cells. So therefore, since we have heavily dependent on solar cells, import of solar cells, so depreciation of rupee will further increase the price of these solar cells. So that ultimately impact India's efforts to achieve the renewable energy targets as well, and that in fact increases India's current account deficit. In short, is called as CAD. Now after that, The one good advantage with depreciation of rupee is that exports get cheaper. Now see, because of depreciation of rupee, for example, a particular individual A has been earning $1. So earlier he used to earn 70 rupees for $1. Because of depreciation of currency, he is now earning 75 rupees per $1. So therefore, exports will benefit from the depreciation of currency. Okay, so the domestic currency depreciates, the exports will become cheaper as exports will get more rupee against the foreign currency. In short, so if we talk about major exports from India like IT, a pharma, so they will stand to benefit from the depreciation of rupee. So what are the steps that need to be taken to prevent the rupee depreciation? So there are certain interventions that are required to steps or the interventions that prevent rupee depreciation. So once those steps include allowing foreign central banks, sovereign health funds, and endowment funds to invest in government bonds. So when they are investing in government bonds, so they will invest through dollars or foreign currency. So in some extent that increases India's rupee demand. Okay, so because more and more dollars coming into the Indian economy, so therefore that reduces the demand for dollars as well. So it reduces the slide or depreciation of currency. Secondly, the RBI has the option to sell more of its foreign currency. So RBI has a certain basket of foreign currency reserves with it. So RBI also has the option to sell some of the foreign currency reserves in order to manage the weakening rupee, and it's already doing so. So already RBI has been doing so. It has been selling foreign reserves already available with it. After that, we need to boost the weak industrial growth. Now, India's industrial growth is not at par with several other countries in Southeast Asia and even countries like China. So, therefore, when we boost our industrial growth, then our exports will become more and more competitive. So, they can compete with other countries like China. So, when our exports have been increasing, that we can earn more and more foreign reserves. So in that way, we can reduce or prevent the slide or depreciation of rupee. Now after that, we should also talk about the export incentives and decreased imports. For example, there are some unnecessary imports. So we just reduce those unnecessary imports. Okay, why to waste forex reserves? They are very precious in order to reduce the backsliding of rupee. So on the other hand, we should also take certain measures like announcing incentives for exports. So that could reduce or that could further enhance exports from the Indian economy. So we can earn more and more forex reserves. Thereby, we can also reduce the imports, unnecessary imports. So after that, we need to keep our forex currency spending at a minimum. So whenever we are spending foreign currency reserves, either at the government level, either at the individual level, or even at the banks, so these spending should be kept at minimum. So if we follow these steps, we can prevent the backsliding of rupee or the depreciation of rupee. So apart from that, RBI can also encourage, or RBI can also take action to encourage capital inflows. For example, there are certain accounts called NRI accounts. So when NRIs have invested or NRIs have bring dollars into their accounts, so that can be converted into rupees. Okay, so therefore in this way it prevents the sliding or reduces the depreciation of rupee as well, because NRIs will start making deposits in India. So they'll start making deposits in India and they will be selling their dollars. So because they are NRIs and they are in dollars, okay, so they start selling dollars in exchange for rupees, and that will help depreciation of rupee. Now, while writing conclusion, so what should be the conclusion? So you have already written the measures that have to be taken in order to prevent depreciation of rupee. So when you are writing conclusion, you just emphasize on the need for resilience of rupee. Okay, so in recent times when we compare rupee with the other major currencies like Chinese currency and even Japanese yen. So you can also talk about the de-dollarization of the markets or the international trade. And alternatively, you can also talk about BRICS currency. BRICS currency. So in this way, you can write a very good conclusion. So that gives a very good impression about the answer. So the currency's decline is probably going to make the exports more competitive. So when currency has been depreciating, it will lead to the more competitive exports, and that will benefit the economy as well. So in fact, if you look at the rupee, it is remained as more resilient than other currencies. For example, if you look at if you look at Japanese yen and Chinese currency, it is more resilient. However, it has a reported depreciation when we compare it with the dollar. So therefore, the government should take the above mentioned steps, and the government should also think about the BRICS currency or de-dollarization or internationalization of rupee. So there were recently also attempts made by the government for the internationalization of rupee. So this is how you can conclude this answer. So the next question that we have to discuss is about the digitization of Indian economy. Now, how digitization of Indian economy through apps like Unified Payment Interface, so BeamPay and GPay led to the consolidation and growth of Indian economy. So how they have contributed for the growth of Indian economy, and this is what we need to discuss about. Now, recently, the government, not recently, in the year 2015 itself, the government has launched the Digital India program. Digital India program. So this program has envisioned that India should be a digital empowered society. Okay, so India will become a digital knowledge based economy. So one such objective of digital India is that no cash payments or digital transactions. However, UPI has revolutionized or democratized online transactions. It is one of the most successful aspect in digital transaction that took place in India. Okay, so in this context, we need to understand what exactly is the role of digitization in Indian economy through apps like these, and how the consolidation, how it led to the consolidation and growth of Indian economy. So, firstly, the digital revolution in India that was started by the government of India, initiated by Digital India program. Okay, so it was started in July 2015. So what is the objective of Digital India program? So to transform India into a digitally enabled knowledge based economy. So it wanted to transform India into a digitally enabled and knowledge based economy. So digitization has played a very important role in boosting economy, creating jobs, and also improving the productivity. So if we talk about the digital transactions, so they have widened the tax base, that led to the widening of tax base, and also reduces the black money in the economy. Okay, so for example, there's a term called parallel economy. So when there's excess black money in the economy, that led to the parallel economy. Even when black money is more in the economy, that reduces the effectiveness of monetary policy. That also gives a fillip to illegal activities like organized crime, drug trafficking, human trafficking, counterfeiting of currency notes, and also financing terrorist activities and insurgency. So therefore, digital economy, particularly digital transactions, have several advantages. Okay, so it has led to the transformation of Indian economy as a whole. So in this context, we need to discuss about the advantages of digital economy. So what are the big advantages? So first and foremost, we need to talk about the removal of black money from the economy. So these payment options have led to the removal of black money from the economy. How it has imposed restrictions on cash based transactions. Okay, so there will be certain restrictions. So certain sum of money should not increase its limits. Okay, so thereby imposing restrictions on cash based transactions. Okay, so now digital payments will be run through the banking channels, and that reduces the scope for black money as well. So the government can explicitly expel the black money by these digital economy or the digital transactions. So after that, it also led to the empowerment of people. How? Because recently the government has launched Jam Trinity, Jandan Aadhaar Mobile Trinity. So that led to the direct benefit transfer and even led to the fight against corruption. Okay, so now the direct benefit transfer directly crediting benefits of the welfare schemes into the beneficiaries bank accounts, and it has also helped in fight against corruption. So after that, the digital economy has been creating a lot of jobs, particularly new startups, entrepreneurship, right? So digital empowerment of people led to the creation of new jobs as well. So it has also been increasing revenues. For example, when every transaction is run through banking channels or the legal channels, no one can escape from the tax net. So that led to the widening of tax base. Now every transaction will come under the tax base or tax net. Now, in fact, customers will also get a bill for the purchase. Okay. Now, every transaction is also recorded, and merchants are now bound to pay sales tax to the government, and that will ultimately lead to the widening of the tax base. And in fact, the UPI payment options have democratized the online transactions. Simply with a simple tap or a simple simply entering or scanning a QR code, you can make payments easily. So this is how it has revolutionized, transformed Indian economy into a digitally enabled, knowledge-based economy. So after that, it has also given a fillip to e-governance. Digital economy has given a fillip to e-governance also, because e-governance requires information and service technology interventions. So therefore, the delivery of all government services could be done in an electronic mode through ICT. So what are the recent measures that are being taken by the government to promote the knowledge enabled digital society or the digital economy? So firstly, the government has come up with certain measures like DigiLocker, okay, or the digital locker. So digital locker is a service operated by government of India that enables Indian citizens to store certain official documents on the cloud. Okay, for example, if you have your certificates, study certificates or the education certificates, you can safely store them in your digital lockers. So therefore, there is no need to carry these physical documents whenever you require those documents. So okay, they'll be safe in your digital lockers. So after that, we should also talk about the digital payment options. So now there are different payment gateways and different payment gateways and different wallets also. For example, Phone Pay, Amazon Pay, and even Paytm. So there are different digital payment options, and that are powered by the unified payment interface. So that has led to the or revolutionizing digital payments in every part of the country. Now even a small vendor have a QR code. So that makes online payments easier for him. Okay. So after that, India has also becoming a less cash-based economy. So BIM app has also been launched. So this app enables digital payments. So consumers or users can easily make payments using the BIM app. So the government has also launched Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharata Abhiyan. So this particular program with the objective of making digitally illiterate. Now digital literacy is very important for financial inclusion and also inclusive growth. So if a particular individual to make digital payments, he should be digitally literate. So that is also the essence of making this individual safe from any sort of cyber crimes. So after that, we should also discuss about the BharatNet project that is also launched by the government. So what is the objective of BharatNet program? So BharatNet program objective is to bring broadband to every village. Okay, so every gram panchayat. So that will also further give a fillip to the increasing online payments through these payment gateways. Now, in this context, we need to discuss the challenges also. What are the challenges in ensuring the online payments? Okay, so the challenges include there's a lack of connectivity or the infrastructure. For example, so internet or Wi-Fi services are not available in all parts of the country. Okay, so because there's a slow rollout of existing BharatNet program and slow rollout of Wi-Fi hotspot and slow speeds of internet. This is one challenge. After that, there's also still lack of incentives because most of the small and medium scale industry is struggling to adapt to modern technologies. So this is another challenge. So after that, digital illiteracy is another major challenge. So apart from digital illiteracy, digital divide. So this is also prevalent in different parts. Okay, so particularly between rural and urban areas, and even between men and women. So there's a huge digital divide between gender and regions in different parts of the country. And also India lacks skilled manpower. So if you look at the total skilled population is around 4.7 percentage. So that is significantly a lower number of skilled population when we compare it with other major economies. So therefore, lack of user education. There's a limited facilities to train personnel are some of the challenges. So in this context, when we write the conclusion for this answer, you have to emphasize on the digitalization of Indian economy, how it led to the transformation of Indian economy. Okay, so digitalization has indeed spurred the growth and added a dynamic dimension to the Indian economy. So, okay, so it has added a dynamic dimension to the Indian economy. So, however, the imperative or the importance should be on addressing the existing challenges through innovative and inclusive strategies. For example, harnessing full potential of digitalization and also steer the nation towards a digitally empowered economy. So, these will be the ways through which making India a digitally empowered society, and this is how you can write the conclusion in this answer. Okay, so the next question is about Indian economy. It has recently become a fifth largest economy, surpassing United Kingdom. So in this context, India has become a fifth largest economy, and what are the major drivers and way ahead for India in this context? Now, India has become a fifth largest economy. So, in terms of GDP, so however, India is the third largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. Okay, so there are top five economies. So, India has surpassed UK as the fifth largest economy. Now, in this context, you should give some brief data about India's economy and India's economic growth. So, recently, India has become world's fifth largest economy by overtaking United Kingdom. So, India has become a fifth largest economy. So, it has overtaken United Kingdom. So, now US is the largest economy, followed by China, Japan, Germany, and India has become the fifth largest economy and it has surpassed UK. So you can clearly go through this. So which are the five largest economies? Okay. So however, if you look at India's GDP growth rate, so in past few years, India has been growing at a pace of 6 to 6.5 percentage. So this imagine now the world is uncertain. The world has grappled with higher inflations, recession. So even then, India has been growing at a pace of 6 to 6.5 percentage. Now, if you look at China, its growth is hardly 4.5 percentage and 5 percentage. And if you look at US, it is hardly growing at a 3% annual growth rate. So in this context, 6 to 6.5 or 6.5% is one of the good growth rates, good economic growth rates in the world of uncertainty. So if India continues to grow at this pace, even 7% per annum, India is said to be the third largest economy by 2029. So because India already aimed to become the $5 trillion economy, okay, $5 trillion economy by 2025. So in this context, if India continues to grow at this pace, India will become the third largest economy by the year 2029, and this was the prediction from World Bank and International Monetary Fund. So given here the growth rates of different countries. So if you look at US growth rate, this is just 2.3% and China 6.3%. Now Chinese growth rate has further declined. So the growth rate projections for 2019 before pandemic year. So after pandemic, the situation has completely changed. Even China has not even able to grow around 4 to 4.5 percentage per annum. So Japan is growing at a 0.8 percentage, Germany 1.7%. But India, look at India's growth rate. India is one of the fastest growing major economies in the world. So if India continues to grow at this pace, India will become the third largest economy in the world by 2029. Even you can see the growth rate of France and Germany. So France and UK, so they are going at hardly 1.7 and 1.6% per annum. Now, in this context, what are the challenges? We need to discuss about the challenges as well in the growth of Indian economy. So first and foremost challenge is weak per capita GDP of India. When you compare India's per capita GDP with all other major economies, India has one of the lowest per capita GDP. So this is primarily because of growing population or highest population. So recently, the World Population Fund report has mentioned that India's population has become 142 crore and it has surpassed China as the world's largest, populous country. Now, India is the world's largest populous country in the world. So, after that, India's population or India's workforce has poor skills. So, if you look at total skilled population in India, it is hardly 4.6% or 4.5%. So, when you compare it with Japan, countries like Japan, they have 84% of skilled population. South Korea, 96% of the total workforce is skilled. So, therefore, in fact, after the skilling of the population, around 90% of the total workforce lack proper skill sets. So they do not lack proper skill sets. So we should also discuss about the unemployment, the problem of unemployment. So there is lack of job creation for growing population. In fact, the job creation is very minimal because most of our population or most of our workforce is concentrated in the agriculture sector, and industry is not able to provide enough employment opportunities. Even service sector is a less labor intensive. Okay, but on the other hand, the labor intensive sectors like textile sector, jute mills, and leather, they have been facing stagnation because there's lack of policy support for those industries, the labor intensive industries. So that has led to a huge problem of unemployment. So India's growth rate is also called as jobless growth. So you also very often hear about this. India's growth rate is called as jobless growth, so which further leads to the vicious cycle of poverty. Now, if you look at the Human Development Index of India, India's rank in HDI is 132 out of 192 countries, and it is one of the poorest ranking for India in the Human Development Index. So, therefore, India should focus on health, education, and standard of living aspects in this particular context. Now, after that, the universal health coverage is also very poor in India. So, if you look at the out of pocket expenditure, India has been one of the highest out-of-pocket expenditure, that has been around 42% of the total health expenditure. So therefore, India should focus on universal health coverage. So making health a fundamental right can also be welcomed. States like Rajasthan have recently, made right to health. Okay, so they have brought a legislation that made right to health. So that led to people can seek health care, and the government is obligated to provide health care for the people. So therefore, that will ultimately improve the quality of life of citizens in India. So as per national health estimate, the share of out-of-pocket expenditure is around 47%. percentage. Okay, so these are the challenges of India. So in the context of India has becoming a fifth largest economy, and we must introspect about these challenges and work on these challenges to make our economy more and more progressive over a period of time. So in this context, the government has taken a number of steps to fasten or speed up India's economic growth. So what are those steps? So they include the Startup India program, and that was launched in the year 2016. So the aim of the Startup India program is to catalyze startup culture and build a strong and inclusive ecosystem for innovation and entrepreneurship in India. So the program objective is to promote entrepreneurship and innovation. So after that, the goods and services tax has also brought. So in the year 2017, in fact, in UPSC 2023 mains examination, goods and services tax question has also directly asked that 101 constitutional amendment. If you don't know what is 101 constitutional amendment act, you cannot write this answer. Okay, so the GST Act was brought with the motto called One Nation, One Tax to improve the growth momentum. So, thereby reducing the barriers for trade, business, and related activities. So, the government has also brought the Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. So, this is to revive the already stressed discoms. Okay, so this was launched in the year 2015. The aim of the program is to financial turnaround and revival package for electricity companies in India. So after that, the National Infrastructure Pipeline, a program, a roadmap for 5 years, started from 2020 to 25. So the program objective is to invest around 100 crores in social and economic infrastructure in India. Okay, so over a period of 5 years, India will invest around 100 lakh crore in infrastructure. So investment in infrastructure is very important even to make India a $5 trillion economy. So hope that this investment in infrastructure will help revive India's economic growth. After that, the national monetization pipeline. So there are several government lands which are not utilized properly. So this program was launched in the year 2021. So this will not resulting in changing of ownership of the government land. However, the land which is or unproductive will be transferred to the private sector for the productive use. So the aim of the this program is to asset creation through monetization of the unproductive land. So the Atmanirbhar Bharat program that was also launched. So it is a self-reliant India mission that was launched in the year 2020 as an economic stimulus package to revive the COVID situation. So PM Gati Shakti program has also launched. So the National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity launched in the year 2021. Okay, so it is a simplified and liberalized procedure for foreign direct policy. Okay, so these are the steps that were taken by the government to fasten India's economic growth, particularly in the context of India becoming a $5 trillion economy. Now in this context, what are the opportunities that lies ahead for India? So this is also being asked in the question itself. So what are the opportunities that are being available for India in this context? First and foremost, a positive or favorable demographic dividend for India. So India should leverage the potential of population in stimulating the economic growth. So whatever population we have or the population advantage we have, that should be rightly leveraged. And we should also deal with the poverty. We should focus on human development in India. So as per National Multidimensional Poverty Index 2023, this was released by Niti Aayog. There has been a steep decline of poverty levels in recent past as well. As we all know that this year India hold the presidency of G20 summit. So in this G20 2023, the theme of summit is One Earth and One Family and One Future. So this will have a geopolitical significance for India with the neighboring countries, and they will have India can reach globally. So all these factors will help India further strengthen its economic growth and help to become India the third largest economy by 2029. And India continues to grow at a faster pace, continues to become a fastest growing major economy. So that's all for today. So the remaining we will discuss in the tomorrow's lecture. So if you like the video, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.